Welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you're all here today. We're going to be going over the club success plan first. If you are new to Toastmasters officers roles, then this is the room to be in. And one of the most important things that you're going to have to do as a Toastmaster officer for your club is the club success plan. Oh, man, why is this not moving forward? All right, we seem to be having technical difficulties here. Why is this not moving forward? There we go. All right.
There you go.
First timers, if you haven't heard this before, my personal mantra is that you are not in this alone. And if this is your first time as a club officer, you have on this screen my name and my contact information. Please feel free to take it down. Personally, I prefer that you call rather than use the email because I don't always get to see my email on a daily basis while I'm working. I prefer that you call anytime, day or night, except between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. because I have to sleep. The club success plan is the first step towards delivering your club excellence. It is used to properly develop and execute a plan that enables and supports all members' achievements, which in turn promotes engagement, retention, and club growth. And I just said a mouthful, and all of you are probably wondering, oh my God, what did we just sign up for? It's okay. Relax. Take a deep breath. You're not in this alone. The club success plan is a roadmap to success for your club. So the purpose of this particular session is to assist officers to identify and address common barriers surrounding planning, critically looking at the club success plans, and facilitate the use and best practices in planning. What I intend to be going over is what goes into the success plan and improving success plans. After completing this session, as a club officer, you should be able to recognize the advantages of good planning, assess and revise planning documents, and develop planning documents to effectively target the goals of your club. By meeting all of these objectives, club officers will be able to support their clubs in critically reviewing their success plan and implementing best practices to reach the goals of their members. Whew, what a mouthful. What goes into success planning? What goes into a plan? Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. You have a complete list here. And there are certain goals that each club wants to achieve and always they're striving for. And the more you strive to achieve these goals, the better off your club will be. Of course, you cannot do that without a plan. Your plan is your roadmap to success. If you don't plan to win, you are by default planning to fail. We see this phenomenon constantly in Toastmasters because people don't take the time to take the success plan seriously. All they want to do is their speeches. Oh, I joined Toastmasters. I want to learn how to do this. And that's the only thing they concentrate on. but there's a plethora of stuff that makes that goal meaningful. And if you don't have those tools, and if you don't have those other things in place in order to help you, then you're not going to have reaching that goal to be so easy. They're surprised when they see clubs struggling. They don't understand why it happened. It's a constant forward motion that clubs need to maintain in order to be successful. When things do not work out, plans need to be adjusted in order to win. Inside your club success plan, you have a list of everything that you need to take care of. Well, your team composition would be your officers, and then you would have the members at the bottom of those, because everything is about the member. You would have a listing of your operating principles. Why are you doing these things? What's the reason for it? What are your potential obstacles? If you're in a corporate club, maybe people are in other meetings at the same time that your club is in meetings. If you're in a community environment, and we just went through this big, huge pandemic, and that turned around and slapped every Toastmaster club in the face, because all of a sudden, states said, no, nobody can meet in person. And we had to adapt, and we came up on Zoom, and there's all sorts of different obstacles that can pop up. And when these obstacles pop up, how do you, as a club, plan to address those obstacles? What are your meeting protocols? When you get out there, how do you want to run your meeting? In what manner? Is it always going to be the same, or do you change it up? Maybe you run some speech marathons, or you run some table topics marathons, or you get really creative and you run a reverse meeting. Now that would be awesome. You have your evaluators give their evaluation first, so that when the speakers speak, they have to match the evaluation. That would be a trick. How do you, as team members, how do you interact with each other? Is it always face-to-face? Do you pick up the phone? Do you email? What methodology do you use first? What about your educational goals? There's a whole slew of educational goals that have to be out there. And every single member has them. How do you address those goals? How does that VPE schedule those members inside the meeting agendas for all the future meetings, so that these pieces are always in place, members are always progressing, and they're always feeling like they're in something bigger than themselves? And the membership goals. What do you do for membership goals? If it's a new club, you're sitting there, you're looking at Charter Strength and you just got started. But what about those clubs that are 8 people, 10 people? Clubs less than 12 can use a club coach to help them get more members. There needs to be a shift in the way some of the people in Toastmasters think. Toastmasters International has 3 different membership drives during the year. And in your club success plan, you should be addressing all 3 drives and the club's goal of attaining 5 new members for each one of those drives. And I say that emphatically. I push that, because if you always get 5 new members, all 3 drives, that's 15 new people in your club every single year. Your club will never have a membership problem. Your club will always be a Charter Strength, and your club and the members will always grow. If you don't have that membership drive, your club will sink. So all of this gets delineated and put out inside your club success plan, and it shows everything that you can do step by step on how to get there. And don't worry if you think that, oh my God, I can't sit here and think about all that stuff in my head. How do I document it all? It's okay, relax. There's two different ways of doing it. There's a 22-page document where you can label every little thing that you want and shows who does what and where, or you can use the spreadsheet that District 33 came out with. So it's a spreadsheet that you can look at one single shot and see the status of your club. And yes, during the question and answer period, please somebody remind me and I will drop those things inside the chat room so you have a copy of them. There, we created an Excel spreadsheet that makes the document easier to understand. Using that spreadsheet lets you view the whole entire plan all at once without going nuts, flipping through the pages, trying to figure out what's where in order to see what has to be done. You as officers should discuss in advance what, when, how, and who bridges the gaps for all of these different things that we're talking about here today. And you want to map it out to the goal of where your club decides it wants to be by the end of the Toastmaster year. We will reduce risks, waste, and provide direction if we take care of the club leadership or the club success plan. It is a key document for the club, which outlines how the club will grow their club, train their leaders, educate their members, meet compliance targets, and achieve success. The club success plan needs to deliberate attention and maintenance because it first addresses the current situation of your club, plans on the possible future of your club, and then if things aren't working out, some roadblocks came up, you have to be able to adjust the plan as the new information becomes available. I always like to liken this to the 6 Ps. I'm not sure if everyone knows the 6 Ps, but from a old military man, the 6 Ps are simple. It means prior planning prevents piss poor performance. And your club success plan will ensure that you have great performance in everything that you do, provided you actually plan it out and follow that plan. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. So please feel free to unmute and answer these questions. Just shout out your answers. What brings people to Toastmasters? What are the goals of the people who come into Toastmasters? Anybody?
To become
Improving.
stronger in their personal development.
Boss
Awesome.
told me to go.
Boss told me to go.
To
Overcome
become
fear.
promise of
better
better
speaker.
leadership and better public speaking.
Awesome. Well, go ahead.
Overcome the fear of public speaking.
Awesome. Thank you
I
so
think
much.
it's for networking, like you can find, people with similar interests, friends, if you don't have friends, jobs, if you need a job. Networking is a good one.
I was actually going to say that too, Natalia.
Yeah.
I'm saying that right?
Thank you. It's Natalie, but I'll take Natalia. I would take that.
Well, I think broadly there's the idea of community too. You're becoming
Yes.
part of a community,
Yeah.
and there's a family
Yes.
there.
So all of you listed specific goals. So now ask yourself, if you're one of these people who have these specific goals, and as a club officer, how are you going to get your members to those goals? How are you going to get your members to those goals? The whole point of a club success plan is to solve those issues for the member. It puts an actionable plan in place to help each member of your club achieve their personal goals in Toastmasters. Everything from speeches to mentors to delineating anything that you can think of in the club success plan, it's all there. And it's up to us as club officers to put it out there and help our members, because they aren't going to succeed unless we put into place the tools and resources for them to use. Now, what are the risks of not refining the plan? Anybody?
Getting caught with your pants down as the tides go out.
Yes.
You remain in stagnation. You're not moving forward or making improvements, bettering the club.
Good, good. Anyone else?
You're definitely going to lose members probably because, you know, people get disinterested and don't want to join anything that is unorganized.
Correct. When you have all these different types of problems, you have to ask yourself, how do I figure out what these problems are? Where do I get help? And it's easy. Send your club success plan to your area director. Review, reconsider, and revise your club success plan every quarter. If there are problems that are showing up, things that need to be addressed, go in there, make the adjustments. The great thing about planning is that the more you do it and receive feedback, the better you get at it. Quantity equals quality. You have already done a fair amount of planning, both professionally and personally. Now you take that experience, you apply it to your Toastmasters club, and you see where that goes. I went over quickly the improving of the plans. Now we're going to move on to the next section. Our questions and answers period. Let me stop sharing and open up the floor for questions and answers. Mark, can you give me 10 minutes for questions and answers, please? Okay, questions and answers.
Mark, you're muted, but I do have a question.
Yeah, we're right on track. We're at 19 minutes and 40 seconds. So we were going to stop at 20. So here we go.
Jim, so I have a question. Let's say you have members that have been members 15 plus years, 20 years, and they've become so like casual and nonchalant in our club meetings. So when you invite new guests and they see the participation from these members and are, you know, thinking, well, you know, I don't know if it's kind of like serious or the formality has been lost. What can we do to help our members, you know, shift that type of attitude? Or some of them are like, oh, I'm here just more of a social club, but then there's some of us that really want to practice our developmental skills and communication. And so because of the seniority, you know, where do we draw the line, or how do we help our members all step up?
So there's two ways that you can do this. You can either draw the person aside and speak one-on-one, or you can hold a training for the entire club. Now, me personally, I prefer holding the training for the entire club, because when you get out there, you talk about the club's goals and the club's perception from people coming from the outside. And those perceptions are what either make or break the new people coming into the club. And you can point out different things without naming people. For instance, you could say, well, when people interrupt speakers, then this is the perception that happens. And it's not a professional, it's not professionally accepted. And so you can do that kind of thing. I think if you do the training, you would be better off than you would if you pulled somebody aside. Because if you pulled someone aside, they could just ignore what you say and keep doing whatever they're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
Jim,
Yes.
you, one of your questions was how we get members to meet goals, and wondered,
Yes, Sheila. Yes. Your question is?
how do we get members to meet goals?
Okay, so you have an educational Pathways is the educational program for Toastmasters. And inside Pathways, it lays out the foundation in the first two, and then in levels 3 through 5, it lays out all the core courses. And your VPE should be knowledgeable enough throughout everything in Pathways to be able to turn around and talk to any member in the group, in the club, and set out a path and timeline for that person to reach their own personal goals. So for instance, take yourself, and let's assume you're not the VPE, and you just started a brand new path today. And by December, you want to be at level 2. You want to have completed level 2. So there's X number of speeches that are in there, and you can sit down with your VPE and you can say, based on the number of weeks we have, I need to do speeches this often. And then you decide which speeches you want to do when, and you plug them into the calendar so that your VPE schedules those for you, and they're done and they're ready to go. And you have a roadmap for yourself in order to achieve the goal that you want. And then once you achieve that, you move on to the next goal, and the VPE will help you schedule those.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Pamela, you have your hand raised. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I wanted to ask, actually, I'm here not because I'm a first-time officer, but because I feel like we've never really done the club success plan that well. So I want to ask, like, we have always found it quite daunting because it's quite a large document. And I guess in our 1 hour executive club meetings, we would try and we wouldn't get through it. And then we'd, it would take up all the meetings trying to get through the club the club success plan. So how do you suggest breaking it down so it's a manageable document to fill out and not so overwhelming?
I suggest you go to the chat room and you download the spreadsheet. And use that spreadsheet.
Okay.
It'll make it, District 33 came out with this spreadsheet. It'll make it so much easier for you to use that spreadsheet than that 22-page document.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I see someone in Debbie Almond's window.
I have a question.
I see someone at Debbie Almond's window waving their hand like this. Go ahead,
Oh, right.
unmute yourself.
Can
Debbie,
you hear me?
yes,
You can?
yes.
Okay, so one thing I wonder about is sometimes, for instance, I've gone in and out of clubs depending on the season in my life. And it's helpful to be reminded either by, reminded or evaluated by an older Toastmaster that has vision like Debbie Almond. And from the mentoring perspective is, why am I here in the first place? Because sometimes if I'm not there for social reasons, I'm there for a very specific reason, to learn to communicate to a very specific audience. Maybe it's just one-on-one to clarify the communication goals, not just to become a public speaker. For instance, when I was first in Toastmasters, I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to be a presenter. Well, then I got involved in my first international adoption. And then I realized that Toastmasters was very instrumental in helping me become an advocate for my special needs sons. So sometimes when the seasons of life change and you think, I don't have time for Toastmasters, I'm just thinking about new people coming, and then people whose seasons change, it's really easy to forget the communication goals I have personally, because it's really easy to go back into my life outside of Toastmasters if I stop coming to Toastmasters and communicate the same old way. And then I'll find out, gee, this isn't working again because, oh yeah, Toastmasters was helping me. But to keep people invigorated as to why, and I understand the woman talking about people coming to Toastmasters, her social goals, to remind new people or find out what is your personal goal. And some people are just, I just want to be better at and revisiting and reclarifying and maybe brainstorming ways that Toastmasters is so helpful, whether you are planning to address your child's teacher on one-on-one, or you want to speak at a school board meeting and want to know how to present yourself intelligently, or you like to call into talk shows and you don't want to be cut off because you're blah, 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 and don't know how to gather your thoughts. Things that are really practical in everyday life, to go over those things and remind me why this is so helpful, and that the Toastmasters paths, we, especially in the community clubs, we are so random and so diverse, which is one of the pleasures of Toastmasters. New English speakers, people from all over the world have different personal communication goals, but we have one thing in common, that Toastmasters brings us together to have a safe place to fail. And this path is going to together reach our individual goals. And I just wondered if that would be, you know, maybe like when someone was talking about spreading the seeds, when you're talking about it, how to maybe go over how Toastmasters has helped us. I mean, I've never heard anyone say how Toastmasters has helped in being an advocate for anything. Maybe you like to rescue pets. Maybe you have a passion in your life you want to speak about, and to say, remember, you're going to be a better advocate. You're going to be a better person in your personal passion, and to just go over that and be encouraged in that, just in case, you know, you want to drop Toastmasters for a season. And sometimes you have to, but remembering those things, it's what keeps bringing me back.
Okay, and your question was?
My question was, how can we better implement revisiting and reminding people of their personal goals and why they're at Toastmasters in the first place, the new people, the old people?
So if you're trying to better implement it, the best way to do it is for the members to fill out a questionnaire for the VPE. And that way the VP has a documented piece of paper that says, these are your goals. And then everything that you're scheduling for needs to be reaching towards those goals. I am running out of time for this session. I need to get on to the next topic. For those of you who still have questions, please email them to me. I will respond. Let me once again share my screen and start the next session. We're going to go over, let's see, click here, come on. You guys see the screen?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly go over the Distinguished Club program right now. Mark the same timing as before, please.
You got it.
For those of you who don't know what the Distinguished Club program is, the Distinguished Club program includes 10 different goals that your club should strive to achieve each year. When your club incorporates the moment of truth into every meeting, it is already well on the way towards achieving and reaching the annual goals, all 10 of them. But you need to make sure that that moment of truth is in place in order to do it. For your convenience, the 10 goals have been grouped together in different parts. There's an education part where the members have an opportunity to earn education awards and as they're reaching their goals. There is a membership drive part when new, dual, and reinstating members join the club. Everyone's experience is enhanced if your club is reaching towards the charter strength. And that is one of the goals for the district this year. So every club officer should be pushing to have their current club become charter strength by the end of the Toastmaster year.
Jim, should we be seeing the goals on the screen?
No,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm just telling you.
Okay.
Trained officers are better able to serve and support their club because they know how to fulfill their job. So training is a section on the DCP board. And if you remember when Cindy was talking, we talked about how, oh, there's at least 4 have to be trained. And she came up with the point, well, what 3 officers do you not want to have trained? And that kind of puts things into perspective for a club. Clearly, it's important for all 7 officers to be trained. And the goal for the district for this year is to have all 7 officers for all clubs trained during both rounds of training. You're currently in the first round. And there's the administrative section. And this is for things such as submitting your duals and renewals on time, and whether or not your club officer list gets uploaded to Toastmasters International on time. And all of those things put together.
Excuse me, Jim. Is there the slide? Is it just one slide? Because I'm only seeing one slide.
No, I have more slides. Do you not see the second slide?
I just saw it change.
Okay, I just changed it.
Okay.
Okay. The Distinguished Club Program is an annual program. It's run from July 1 through June 30. The program consists of the 10 goals that we were just talking about. And your club is going to use your club success plan in order to map out how you wish to get there. It's going to help you keep track of your progress towards the goals throughout the entire year. And of course, you can have your updated reports. They're all going to be posted daily on Toastmasters International website under the Distinguished Performance Reports. I will show you a sample here pretty momentarily. At the end of the year, at year end, the number of the goals achieved is calculated based on the goals met and whether or not you have the qualifying requirements for membership will determine whether or not you are a distinguished, select distinguished, or president's distinguished club. Me personally, I wish that every single club becomes a president's distinguished club. So if you need some help getting there, please feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to see what I can do to help you. Now here you have a sample. And you can see at the top of the page, the very top, you have the 2 boxes on the right where it says goals and memberships. Qualifying prerequisite prior to conditions or participations in the program is that you need to get all of those in order to get your distinguished recognition. Even if one of those goals is missed, you won't qualify. So you need to make sure these things get done. To be eligible for recognition, a club must be in good standing, according to Toastmasters policy, and you must have membership eligibility. Good standing of clubs must meet the qualifying requirement of having either 20 members or net growth of at least 5 new, dual, or reinstated members. I'll show a close-up of this so that you can see what I'm talking about. The honorary members of your club, I'm sorry, you may have some, but they don't count towards your goals. So here's a closer look, and you can see that you have a base. This base is what you start the year with. You have a required. The required is what you must end the year with. And you have a to date. To date is what is currently in your club, the number of members that are currently in your club. So let's take, for instance, if your base was 10 and your to date was 10, then the required here would be 15 because it would be 10 plus 5. Note, it says 20 members or a net growth of 5 new members. So if you started with 10, you have to have 15. So this would be 15. If you had 15 or more, then this number will always be 20. So anything less than 15, you have to add 5 new members. Your club's membership base is calculated at the beginning of the Toastmaster year, July 1, which has just passed. So if you go look at it, you'll see what that number is. The membership base equals the number of paid members that the club had at midnight on June 30th. These payments may be coming in from renewals, new, charter, dual, or reinstated members. The membership to date is the number reflective of the number of members that have paid their dues to an individual club. This number matches the number of members on the club roster, with exception to when members transfer out of the club and into a different club. Although your club may gain several new members throughout the year, if the amount of non-renewing members is greater, then your club may not be eligible for recognition because it doesn't meet the required number. For instance, we said we had a base of 10, which means you were required to have 15. And you found 5 new people, but you lost 6 old people. That then leaves you with a to date of 9. So you're gonna have to make up anyone who leaves the club as well as those new members. Educations. The goals go through 1 through 6. For education awards, when members have the opportunity to reach their education awards, they are always benefiting from Toastmasters experience and becoming better speakers and better leaders doing the projects that are within Pathways. In order to get points, in order to get a point for level 1, you need 4 level 1 awards to be achieved. For level 2, you need 2 level 2 awards. You can again get 2 more level 2 awards. You need 2 level 3 awards. You need 1 level 4, 5, or GTM. Now, everyone's going to sit there and say, well, I'm in multiple paths and I've done level 1 in these 2 paths, but only 1 shows up on the board. That's because you can only get 1 level award per person per club. So if you have 2 paths and you're doing both paths at once, and you're in two different clubs, I recommend you split them up and you do one in one club, one in the other club, so that both clubs get the equal number of points. If you put everything into one club, you're losing 50% of those points. It's not being of value to the club. Only members in good standing are eligible to earn education awards. A member is in good standing is one whose dues have been paid and received by World Headquarters for the current dues period. I.e., right now it's March through September. So you should have been paid through September already. All award applications must be complete and received by World Headquarters no later than June 30th in order to count for the current Toastmaster year. And we also mentioned that there's other things besides education. We mentioned that there's mentorship, there's membership, there's training, and there's admin. Goals 7 and 8 deal with membership, and Toastmasters International says that you want to get 4 new members and then 4 new members, or a total of 8. But again, if you're following the membership drives from Toastmasters International, there are 3 membership drives in which the club's goal is 5 per drive, which means you'll have 15, no problem. You'll far exceed this. You'll get these points and your club will be happy because you have charter strength every year if you get 15 new people every year. Awesome. I think we should do it. I think that's a worthy goal from the district, and I think every club should focus on it. Goal 9 focuses on training. You're here for the first training of the year right now. You want to have a minimum of 4. The district's goal is to have all 7 officers of every club trained in both sessions. I recommend that if you have officers that are missing, that they make sure they get to the training or the makeup training. It's important that they learn how to do their jobs. It's important that your club has people capable of doing what's required of them in order to move forward. And goal number 10 is administrative. When your club fulfills the admin duties, turning in the membership list on time, turning in the officers list on time, you get the points for those. For the portion of goal 10 that addresses the club officers list, you need to keep this in mind. While some clubs elect officers annually, there are clubs that meet less than weekly, and they may hold semi-annual elections. If that's the case, then you'll have to submit that list twice during the year. If your club holds elections, your club officers list must be received by World Headquarters no later than June 30th in order to earn credit towards the goal for the incoming officers year. And with that, I would now like to stop sharing my screen, and I will open up for questions and answers. So who has questions? Feel free to unmute.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I was you said something just now regarding doing a pathways presentation or a speech in one club. I'm in 2 clubs.
Yep.
If I give that pathway presentation in each club, do I get credit for it only one time for my pathways?
What happens with the speeches? Pathways follows the person. The points follow the club. So in pathways, if you're giving the same speech and the same path project then the credit only counts once. But if you're given the same speech in 2 different path projects, then it counts twice. And you can only give the point in 1 club. So if you're on path A level 2, once you've been awarded path A level 2 to club X, that's it. You can't take the same thing and apply it to another club. You have to do a different level to a different club. Rebecca.
Yeah, what I've done, because I've had a couple of people involved in a couple of clubs, is discuss with the other club VPE to find out how close they are versus how close we are, and try to influence the person to give it accordingly, because maybe they've already got enough of level 1, but we're struggling or something like that. And the 2 clubs can talk and share with each other.
Yes, they can.
Yes.
The member can also do that. So the member can bring both clubs together and talk to them. I'm in 14 clubs. I have points all over the place.
So Jim, I have a question.
Yes, Deb.
Can you go over when are typical elections?
The typical elections for a club usually happen the end of May or the very beginning of June.
No. The first, I believe it's suggested May 1st, or the first after the first meeting in May. And also November 1st for semi-annual.
Okay, so you asked me typically. So
yeah. So okay, that's fine. I get just that, and that allows them to get their list done.
Yes. So I'm in 14 clubs, and out of the 14 clubs, 8 of those clubs, they nominate their members by the end of May, and they have the vote for their officers the first week of June. The whole point Debbie's making is the same thing that the other clubs are. You want to have those elections early. You want to give time for the new officers to follow the old officers and get some sort of training and some sort of idea of what's going on and things like that before they just jump in cold feet. Because jumping in cold feet isn't going to help anybody. Next question. Yes, Mark.
Thank you, Jim. Could you, for everyone's understanding, explain the procedures for club officers to approve completed pathways? There are 2 locations on Toastmasters website to go. Thank you.
Yes. So there are 3 people who have access to Pathways Basecamp. You have the president, you have the VPE, and you have the secretary. And when you complete a level in Pathways, a notice is emailed off to these 3 people, the Basecamp managers. And in order for the Basecamp managers to go in there, they have to go in, they have to say, yes, you've completed Inside Pathways, and then you have to go to Club Central, and then you have to award it in Club Central. Now, everyone's going to sit there and say, oh my God, Pathways is so complicated, I have to do it twice. It's no different than before. In the legacy program, you had manuals. And inside that manual, you had the VPE sign everything off with their signature. And then they turned around and they went into Club Central and they gave the award. Well, here in Pathways, it's all electronic. So your manual is the Pathways program. So the VPE goes in there, signs it off inside Pathways, and then goes into Club Central and submits the award. It's the exact same thing. It's just done electronically. It's not a big deal. It's just that people seem to forget. There is some training that is out there that shows how to do this stuff. There's also Membership Masters is part of District 33. It's a club that's designed to have these type of questions answered. And all sorts of tools are out there for anyone to download from the Membership Masters website that has all the PowerPoint slides with the red circles and the arrows and the step-by-step instructions. They're all available and they're all over on Membership Masters. Yes, Mark.
Thanks for going through that very well. I also wanted to elaborate on your answer is that when either the president, secretary, or the VPE award the level that's just been achieved, there's an opportunity to send an email to the perhaps like the employer or to the that person's supervisor, and that can be a real valuable tool to show the value of Toastmasters beyond the club. So that if you're in like my club is a city club, but for others, they may want to kind of brag and show off that the members are continuing to grow. And that's a nice opportunity because then that person will receive an email that says, Jim Kearney has just completed level 4. And it's just a good way to keep that in their face in case that they are kind of removed from the day-to-day operations of the club. It's kind of a nice attaboy, kind of a observation and a comment. Thanks.
Yes, that happens from level 3 onward. There's also an opportunity for the base camp manager to send over some badges for levels and certificates that were achieved. So take advantage of those. Always publicly recognize your members every chance that you can. How much time do we have, Mark?
I'm just checking my phone. It says we have, sorry, one moment.
Maybe we just go.
We have another 6 minutes.
So if there are no other questions, we can catch up the lost 6 minutes by moving on. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll cover the last part. This next one is near and dear to my heart because this one can make or break a club. So let's get this one started. Get the show on the road. Ladies and gentlemen, you see the slide for Moments of Truth, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So the Moments of Truth is part of the Successful Club series. A moment of truth is an episode where a person comes into contact with any aspect of Toastmasters. I don't care what the aspect, any aspect of a Toastmasters experience, and they form an impression inside their head of the club's quality and service that they're going to receive if they join. Now, that's an impact. You walk into a club and you see all sorts of stuff going on. What does that mean to you? From a club point of view, there are several different pieces that you need to be looking at. First impressions is important. There's also membership orientation, fellowship, variety, type of communications that you have going on. What type of program planning are you using? The meeting organization that you have established. What's the membership strength? Again, here we go, talk about charter strength again. And of course, whether or not achievement is recognized. Now, these are all important pieces, and how your club handles them makes a difference. First impressions. Wow. I don't know if you can read these, but it says, guests are greeted warmly. There's a guest book for people to sign. The meeting room itself is professionally arranged. It's in a convenient location. Guests are invited to join the club. Guests are invited to address the club. Now just think about this for a moment. Someone comes in from the outside. They're a guest. Or maybe they're a district leader. Someone who knows how clubs are supposed to be run. How do they see your club? Are all these things taking place? Do your guests get to address the club? Do you ask the guests to join the club? I'll give you a trick for your guests. When you're in the club or when you're there and you have guests there, at the beginning of the meeting, you should always ask the guests to introduce themselves. How did they hear about Toastmasters and what brought them to the club? At the end of the meeting, there are two key questions you should ask. Two key questions. Number one question, what did you see today that would ensure you come back again the next time? What did you see today that will ensure you come back again the next time? Question number two, are you ready to join? Now, I put these questions out there because they're important. The first question sells themselves on joining the club because you asked them, what did they see that was so important that it would bring them back to the club again? And whatever they say, that's the reason that they're going to come back. So it's important that you understand that because they're selling themselves on joining your club. Once they answer that question, you ask, are you ready to join? This is how you convert guests to members. Next one on the list is membership orientation. Do you have a formal induction of members? If you didn't vote the member in, you can't vote them out. Did you assign a mentor to that new member? Or are you just letting that member flip-flop around? Oh my God, what do I have to do? How do I get this done? Oh, no, relax. Assign a mentor. Assign someone to show them the ropes. Get them going. There's an educational program and there's recognition and stuff that's in there. Does anyone explain to the new member what those mean? If you don't know what their goals are, how do you know where that member wants to go? You need to find out. You need to find out what they want. You gotta get the speaking roles going. It's important that they get speaking roles. And so they should be assigned, which means your VPE needs to be talking to that member to know what the goal is, and the mentor needs to know what the goal is, and they need to know how to get them there. And you can only do that if you talk to that member. And of course, you need to have the member involved with club activities. Now, this one is very, very important because this one is the one that sets the boundaries of your community. Do you have a variety of events, or is it the same old blah, 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 every meeting? You want that meeting to be exciting. You want every person there to feel like they're welcome, to feel like they belong, to feel like they're there involved in something bigger than themselves. You have to be able to greet them warmly. You have to be able to have enjoyable educational meetings. You have to be able to have regularly scheduled social events. How many clubs have social events? Anybody? Anyone at all? Wow. I'm in 14 clubs. I'm sorry to say, 12 of those 14 clubs are exactly like you. They don't have social events. There are 2 that actually have social events where the members actually get together outside of Toastmasters and they meet with each other and they form a relationship with each other. And it's important that you have those relationships with the members in the club. If you don't have those type of meetings that are going on, I highly suggest that you have one at least once a quarter. Meet up with your members someplace, have a drink, have something to eat, and just chit chat and create some sort of atmosphere, because the relationship you have with everyone else in that club will make them feel like they belong, and you guys will combine, and everyone will be more willing to help everyone else succeed if they have that relationship. Toastmasters is all about relationships, just in case you haven't figured that out yet, because it's all about the member. Your program planning. How's everything organized? It should look professional. It should not look haphazard. You should not have people get up there and interrupt your speakers. And you should not have any of these things where stuff is just scattered all over the place. Your program and your agenda should be publicized in advance. Members should be prepared to carry out their role assignments. All projects should be from Pathways. Start your meetings on time. End your meetings on time. Be positive and have helpful evaluations. And this is very important, because in the evaluations, if all you do is say, oh, I like this, I like this, I like this, you can improve this, and then you wrap up your evaluation into a nice, neat nutshell. But through that, you never give a why. Why should they improve? Why should they change something? If you don't give a why in that evaluation, then that speaker has no power to do anything, because they have no idea why it impacts the audience unless you tell them. Always put a why to those evaluations. Your membership strength. We can't go over this enough times. The district goal is everyone at charter strength by the end of the year. We want every club 20 members or more by the end of the year. That's the goal. That's the mindset we should be having. That's the drive that every single officer in every single club should be keeping that in their head. How many members do you currently have? How many members do you need to reach 20? And what are you going to do about it? And of course, you have to have achievements and recognition. Why would you do something if you're not going to be recognized? Everybody wants that pat on the back. Even me, I'm a 65-year-old fart. But if you want something from me, you need to ask for my help. And when I give you my help, you need to say thank you. That pat on the back means a lot to me, because it means I did something that actually improved your life. So in the club level, you want to award the applications. You want to award applications immediately. Submit them to headquarters as soon as you can. You also want to be able to recognize any of the district, club, international leaders that come in. Do you have your progress reports out there? And if so, Are they displayed prominently so everyone can see? Members achieve things all the time. You should have some sort of a member achievement party or ceremony at least once a month for anyone who has achieved anything, even if it's as simple as just giving them a certificate of appreciation for doing something, a certificate for completing a level. Anytime that you have any type of achievement, it should be awarded as publicly and as often as possible. Now I have to say, you need to ask yourself, does your club meet the standards? Where does your club stand right now at this moment? What needs to change? When you get in there, find out. You're an officer of that club, go through the moments of truth, find out what needs to be done, and move forward with those changes, because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I am once again going to open it up for questions and answers. Let me drop these things inside the chat room again for you. Here is the slides, and here is the chart. If you have a moment, I would recommend that you take a quick look at this chart. Okay, where's the chart? Take a quick look at that chart. Maybe I can share that here. How much time do we have, Mark? Do I still have a couple of minutes?
Oh yeah, we're only 14 minutes in.
Okay, let me share this chart. All right, does everyone see this chart?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
I recommend that you use this chart. Now, when you take this chart back to your club, on the left-hand side, just deal with first impressions first. On the left-hand side, I want you to use the numbers 1 through 5 for each line item, 1 through 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. On the left-hand side, you list how well your club does this. How well your club does this.
First question is, so 1 through 5, 1 being low.
You want me to read them? Oh,
No, I'm gonna turn this off.
And then on the right-hand side, I again want you to use 1 through 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. How important is this to your club? How important is this to your club? I use the same schedule or the same grading scale, 1 through 5 on both sides. If you have a difference of 2 or more on each line item, then that means that line item needs to be addressed by your club. There's something that needs to be changed, some method, some way of doing that particular item needs to be changed. All right, so you can go through and you do all the other sections. You apply the same theory through every other section that's there, and you'll be good. So take it back to your club, go through these pieces, because this will make or break your club. If you can get everything to be 4 or 5 on both sides of this chart, all the way down through everything, then your club is rocking. Your club is awesome. If there's things that need to be changed, go ahead and make those changes, and your club will become awesome. Let me stop sharing, and I will once again open up for questions and answers. Any questions and answers? Wow, this was the one I thought I have all sorts of questions on.
I got a question, Jim.
Yes,
And by the
yes.
way, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. I'm getting a lot out of what you're giving us today. With the recognitions regarding what the club's doing, what the individuals are doing, a lot of the meetings are still virtual. Is there a way to create a separate screen that would show the ribbons or recognitions of people? So at least there's no walls necessarily to post these on, but can we create a virtual wall where these things can be published in a virtual meeting?
Every club has a website. Well, they're supposed to have a website. Most of my clubs use Free Toast Host. So if you have these type of awards and they're electronic, you can easily post the picture on the Free Toast Host site. In the meeting itself, I recommend that whoever is the president, when they're given the awards, they have a PowerPoint slide with the certificates in there. And then you could just click through them. And then you can always email the certificates out. Or if your club has the money, I personally, I would prefer that if you had the money, you put them in a frame and you send it out in the frame. That would be awesome. Your members would really like that.
I bet they would. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Any other questions? Yes, Mark.
I have, oh, sorry.
Jim, one of the techniques that I've heard at several clubs for evaluations, I'm wondering if you could hear this and then perhaps add, is what's known as the sandwich technique, where you give 3 different bits of feedback. One would be positive, one would be constructive, saying, here's where you need to improve and why, and then wrap it up with something positive again. Do you agree with that? And are there other techniques you might want to share for evaluations? Thank you.
I agree that you should be using a type of sandwich technique. I think the information that you had there was a little bit off, but not because of the way you were being taught. That's how people are being taught to do the sandwich technique. But if you look at the judges sheet for the evaluation guide, on the judges sheet, you have the 3 things that you were talking about, the 3 good things. I like this, I like this, I like this. And then you had the constructive feedback where you must have a why. It's important that you have the why. If you don't have that why, the judges will mark you off for those type of things. And then the 3rd section for the sandwich technique, from your point of view, is something uplifting. It's not just an uplifting thing, but it's supposed to be a summary. You don't want to add anything new after the first 2, because then you're still evaluating. You're not finishing. Right? So the bottom part of the sandwich technique is the finish. And in the finish, you summarize. It's more like, this is what I'm going to tell you. This is what I told you, right? And that type of thing. So at the end, you just want to summarize. You don't want anything new. Just simply summarize everything that you just said. And tell them at the end, thank you so much for the speech. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with this information in your future speeches. Does that help, sir?
Very much. Thank you.
Awesome, sir. Sujay, did I pronounce that correctly? Suhey.
It's Suhey.
Suhey.
I just was looking for suggestions because we meet in a hybrid model of in-person and Zoom, and I like the idea of a guest book, but most of our guests are joining in via Zoom, and I'm trying to find ways that we can keep track of the guests so we can follow up with them without calling out, hey, you need to give us your full name and address, or your full name, because we're a corporate club, so we can follow up. How can we do it so it's not as intimidating to somebody? A lot of people who are joining via Zoom just kind of want to sneak in, but
it's okay. So there are virtual guest books that are out there, and you just simply send them a sheet from the virtual guest book, and they'll fill it in and send it back to you in the chat room when you're done.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? We still have 6 minutes.
Jim, you,
Hey, Sheila.
at the very beginning, you talked about a form that we could use to help us with our, I believe, our club success plan, and that,
I put it in the chat room, the spreadsheet.
and is there a title for that?
Yeah, you know what? It's probably way back in the chat room. Let me just drop it in the chat room again. Hold on one second.
Okay.
It'll just make it easier to drop it in the chat room. It's the same one that Pamela was asking about. Everybody. Oh. Okay, it's in the chat room, Sheila.
Okay. I'm not real good at transferring all this stuff.
If it's in the chat room, you just click on that blue dot and it'll download it to your download.
And then
section.
can I just hit save for it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And what would the title be?
It says Club Success Plan Tool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Suhei, do you have another question? Your hand is still raised.
Nope, sorry, just forgot to remove that.
Thank you. Mark, sir.
Thank you for doing this, Jim. Another question would be having an educational moment during the meeting. I've seen this used rarely, but effectively at a club. Could you talk a little bit about that one?
Educational moments are usually done by the VPE. It's a little blurb, maybe 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes long. And it talks about one specific piece of education that they want to get across. It could be on any subject that they want. Again, in the 14 clubs that I'm in, at least 12 of those 14 clubs use an educational moment. So it's very easy. You just assign it, the VP assigns it to themselves, and then they pick a subject. For instance, they might want to pick about a membership drive. And then they talk about how important it is, why it's important, why is club growth important? Or maybe they want to talk about getting signed into Pathways for the very first time, or signed into Free Toast Host for the very first time. And they'll talk about whatever subject it is, and they go through all the different steps and things that are necessary to make it happen. Very short, sweet, easy to do.
Jim, I've been in some clubs where different members come up with the educational moment also. And
yes.
and they're usually, well, they are supposed to be related to Toastmasters.
Yes.
And that's also effective.
Yes. If I wouldn't ask a new person who just joined Toastmasters to come up and give an educational moment, because they probably don't know anything yet. They've just started. But if someone's been through level 2 or level 3, or if they're an officer in the club and they've been involved and they know what's going on, then certainly it doesn't have to be the VP. It can be anybody. I see we have 2 minutes left. Any more questions?
I just like to thank you. You've done a really nice job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila. I appreciate that.
Also, I'd say thank you, Jim, for not only today, but during the past year. You were a font of information as I was doing club coaching, and I'm now mentoring a club, and the information that you share has been excellent. Actually, one question for you. these, you are providing in the chat these downloads, and that's extremely helpful. I have, maybe you're not aware of this, I've been taking pictures of some of your PowerPoints during the presentation. So the question is, are the PowerPoints available as well? Thank you.
I put them in the chat room. You can download them.
Okay,
All-
I've probably
all
already done that.
Yeah, all three are inside the chat room.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, if you were not able to get them through the chat room and you still want them, please feel free to send me an email. I'll respond. I'll give you copies.
Is any of this on?
You got muted after the word on.
Okay, is anything that you covered on the Toastmaster International website, or is it just for your training program and you send it to us?
Oh no, most of this is from there.
Okay,
Most of it's available.
all right, thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I think we're supposed to be going back to the main room. So I'm going to stop recording.